The government's recently released green paper on the National Health Insurance Scheme still leaves many questions unanswered. To look at some of the issues, I'm joined in studio by Clayton Samsodien, Managing Director of Genesis Healthcare Consultants. Welcome, Clayton.
Thank you, Nompu.
Did you get a sense that the green paper was comprehensive enough for healthcare sector players to have a sense of what their purpose is?
Absolutely. I think firstly there is sufficient information provided, sufficient enough for public and industry comment. I think anything more would have left us slightly a bit, I would say, more perturbed, because then all the decisions have been made. So at least there is room for comment, and we could perhaps steer NHI in a particular direction now.
The government doesn't seem to be wanting to do away with medical, so it means that the private sector and the public sector will have to work side by side. Do you think they can serve complementary roles?
Absolutely. They're currently doing that. There are some medical scheme options where the state is being used as the designated service provider for chronic and for hospitalization. Medical schemes are funding those particular services. So yes, we see that they can work together, absolutely.
What about the skills requirement? It's a huge task ahead to build up the NHI. Do you think it will attract the skills necessary to deliver the quality services that one would hope for?
Yeah, I think that is the big ticket item, is that, the state hospitals is in, unfortunately, a state, in inverted commas. And if you look at the private hospitals, it's run completely different to state. So, yes, even establishing a huge national insurance fund, government is going to lean towards the private healthcare for their skills and expertise.
Come to the crux of the matter, really. It looks as though taxpayers are going to be double paying. On the one hand, they have to pay for NHI. We don't know exactly the tax threshold or as to who has to pay, but at some point we're going to find out somebody has to pay, and then on the other hand, you're paying for a medical aid scheme. Are you worried that people will opt out of private healthcare?
Well, I think, it's actually, there's three issues at play. One, you're going to lose your tax deductibility and rebates on your medical aid contribution. You're going to contribute to medical aid if you want the peace of mind, and you're going to contribute to NHI. So, there's three issues at play here. What we do see is perhaps that the low-income earners will move towards NHI. The middle class, I would imagine, would remain on NHI, and of course the affluent will just continue to pay. The unfortunate scenario is that low-income earners do claim a lot less. And if we see an exodus of them out of the medical scheme industry, it's going to change the risk pool significantly.
So now, risk pool changes significantly. What does that hold for medical aid schemes?
Well, medical aid schemes are just going to readjust contributions and do the fancy actuarial calculations, and it just becomes more expensive. But those of us who lack confidence in the state facilities will continue to pay for private healthcare.
Absolutely. Now, you've touched on it a little bit, but what is your outlook for the medical aid scheme industry given the uncertain future? Well,
they've been extremely resilient. Over the years, they've really not succumbed to any form of regulation, and they've always somehow survived. So what we see the medical schemes doing is providing top-up or supplementary insurance to NHI. I do believe, one of the important things that people seldom touch on is that the ministers also focused on reducing private healthcare costs, particularly that in private hospitals. If that does occur, it would have a positive impact on medical scheme costs.
Well, thanks very much for that, Clayton.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was Clayton Samsodien, Managing Director of Genesis Healthcare Consultants.